during this process, I'm such a people pleaser a lot of the time. I learned how to ask a lot more for what I needed because I literally physically needed these things. I clinically needed these things. So it was very cool to learn to have to change my personality a little bit.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Asian Founders Story. Today I'm here with my friend Goldie. Goldie does not need an introduction because she is well known on the internet because she writes for many publications such as Forbes and very big on LinkedIn. But what did I miss?
Well, I guess one thing that you missed that will be live by the time we have this is I'm releasing my first book, Personal Branding for Introverts, through Public Affairs, which is it's just under Hachette, which is a top 5 publisher. So it's really exciting. It's coming out the end of 2025.
Ooh, that's exciting. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yay.
Do you mind sharing the journey of how that happened?
Absolutely. So when you are, I think, pitching a book, especially a nonfiction book, it's a little bit different than pitching a fiction book.
Mm-hmm.
So you hear people who are like, oh, I wrote this trilogy of dragons hunting people, and then I'm trying to find somebody who'll buy it. So when you are pitching a nonfiction book, usually you're pitching yourself. So you're saying, okay, I have a certain audience. It's really specific. And I want to write this book that my audience will for sure read. So we will sell copies of this book.
Yeah.
And so you're pitching that as opposed to maybe a complete manuscript that you've already written.
And what is your journey, Goldie?
Oh gosh. So my journey, I want to start with the beginning of our friendship.
Let's do that. Let's go back to 2017.
Dinosaur age, when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, 2017. Yeah. I had just started blowing up on LinkedIn. And we became friends because of that, because I think part of this time, Tom, you were also just starting your agency at that time. And so we were both almost, it feels like at the ground level of where we are, based off where we are now in our careers, which is so wild. And I remember we used to host our own conferences we had these folding chairs that we would like unfold ourselves. We'd go early, we'd unfold the folding chairs, we'd make seating for everyone, which was just all of our friends. It was just each other. And then we'd all take turns going up and giving our talks on our areas of expertise.
Yeah, including you.
Including me. And I remember how cool that was, that we were literally making it happen for ourselves, for each other. And we were showing up. And that was my first speaking credit, was speaking in that tiny conference room to my friends in the folding chairs.
Yeah, I think your first speaking opportunity came in San Francisco. I think it was months later, because your first event, I think you were still figuring out what you were doing. You didn't blow up on LinkedIn yet.
I think I was starting to blow up a little bit on LinkedIn, and people were like, oh, you're doing something interesting. And I had to convince people, oh, this is real. Don't worry, it hasn't happened yet, but it will be real. And most people thought I was kind of nuts.
Yeah.
And I remember, Tom, you didn't think I was nuts. And I think the friends that we had in that one group, they were like, no, I see it. I see the vision. And I was like, that's right. The vision is here.
Talk about that growth. When did you realize that posting on LinkedIn was an actual potential career for you?
So for me, I was taking time off. I just left a head of marketing position. And so I was taking a month off just to rest. And I was going to for sure apply to another head of marketing position in a month. And I just didn't want a career gap. So I started making these videos on LinkedIn. But when it felt really real is one of my guy friends actually called me and was like, hey, so I'm like freelancing and editing these videos for the CEO of LinkedIn for an internal thing. And he mentions you as a top 5 creator on LinkedIn. And I was like, what?
What did you write about?
So I was doing branding marketing videos. Oh, so meta. Yeah. And so I was doing a lot of videos on branding, marketing, also like pop culture statistics. So thinking about, for example, the Harry Potter franchise and why that's popular in the United States, or thinking about why we have things like movie posters and why we advertise that way. So I was doing a lot of kind of weird things and just sandboxing a lot. But really, I would say maybe 2 or 3 months in, I was actually a Halloween costume for the head of video for LinkedIn at the time. He put on a green wig and he made a paper frame that said like LinkedIn video or whatever the format was at the time. And he just said, thank you to Goldie Chan and all the other creators. So I was the only one that got that shout out.
Oh, and back when you started, they didn't have videos, remember? It was just posting.
Yeah, it was just posting.
Text.
So when I told especially some of my friends that I was going to go all in on video, everyone thought I was nuts. They're like, you should be doing, at the time, they're like, you should be doing YouTube videos, right? You should be doing videos on Facebook. Like, why are you doing videos on LinkedIn? That's so dumb, because nobody had ever done it before. So who knows actually if it was a dumb idea or a smart idea, right?
Yeah. Talk about some of the highs you experience by just focusing only on LinkedIn.
So some of the highs that I experience, well, definitely the coolest thing is part of why I write for the publication that I write for right now is because they reached out to me and they were like, hey, we like your videos. How would you like to write in a real publication about branding and marketing? And I was like, sure, cool, And a lot of brands started reaching out to me and being like, hey, how would you like to be our ambassador? And one of the brands that I work closely with that I absolutely adore is Adobe. And they reached out to me and were just like, you're making such cool and original videos on LinkedIn. We love to figure out a way to work with you more.
Yeah. And the publication you write for is Forbes. Right?
Forbes, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm a senior contributor at Forbes, and there's definitely not a lot or almost any senior contributors who look like me.
Yeah. Talk about that journey when you first started. I assume when you write for someone like Forbes, they don't just push your articles right away. What did you have to do to stand out and get people to read what you were putting out?
Yeah. So for me, it was definitely a learning experience because I had never been a journalist before. I was not writing Forbes level articles, especially not on LinkedIn. So one of the ways that I was trying to stand out was, first of all, I love to feature folks that I know who are doing cool things. And that's actually what I won an award for last year is diversity in journalism, specifically because I was doing features on a lot of cool people of color and a lot of women who are just doing really interesting things. So I was trying to find articles and I was trying to find brands and people that aren't often featured in this A1 publication. So I love to be somebody's first mention in the kind of publication that changes their career, changes their lives. One of my friends that I featured, literally after I wrote a feature on her, she went back to the same day she went to a group meeting and her boss was like, I just saw you were on Forbes. There's this new project that we were thinking about putting you on. We're definitely going to put you on it now. And so it's so cool to see when there's impact like that, especially with things that I do. But yes, one of the things that I tried to do was really finding the stories that aren't told as often.
Yeah. And what's your format of putting together a story?
I would say my formats change over time. Right now, it's a little bit more, quite frankly, SEO focused because it has to be.
Yeah.
But when I think about stories that make sense to me, I like to take things in bite-sized chunks. So I like to take little quotes or little pieces of information that will also be evergreen. So I don't normally breaking news.
Yeah.
I leave it to other Forbes journalists to do that, contributors to do that. But I like to have an article that if I was writing it about somebody in a year, that's still useful for them. In 2 years, that's still useful for them. I like things that are useful over longer periods of time.
So this podcast is about bragging too. I know you're similar to me. You don't brag as much.
Yeah.
I want you to brag about some of the retweets that you got from some of your articles because we're speaking very casual on, okay, you write for Forbes, but let's really put that amplification on who really reads your stuff.
Yeah. So I would say some of the coolest retweets I've ever gotten, I think I almost cried when LeVar Burton retweeted me for the first time and started messaging me. And so he now tweets me occasionally. The Rock has retweeted me and mentioned my articles.
Which article was that?
It was an article, of course, on The Rock and a lot of information about why The Rock is a really savvy business person. And so it was just neat to see that.
And for that article in particular, did you talk to people on his team, or was it something that you just wrote and researched on your own?
So that was something that I went and researched on my own and put out there, and it blew up so big that his team found it, which was
Oh,
so cool. And then they responded back to me with like, this is so well researched. This is so great, And so it was nice to just have my work affirmed in that way.
yeah. Now, going back to your career, so you're
Yeah.
already on LinkedIn. Being on LinkedIn got you this Forbes opportunity.
Yeah.
Now these are the high points. Is there
Yeah.
anything else that I'm forgetting?
Well, I think one of the things that I've talked about publicly, but not everyone knows, right, is in 2022, middle of 2022, I was actually diagnosed with cancer,
Yeah.
with breast cancer. And I took off from, I would say, May of 2022 to December of 2022 to literally go through chemotherapy, go through surgery, go through radiation, go through things that really are tough on your body, on your mind, on your heart.
Yeah.
And I have such a weird takeaway from that time. So I'll share my weird
Yeah.
takeaway with you,
Please do. Yeah.
which is sometimes parasocial relationships are awesome. So I have a pretty, I would say, sizable following,
Yeah.
and pretty engaged following. And during this time that I literally could not sit up in bed, I could not go walk around or go to cool events like I'm at right now with my friend Tom. I just had to stay at home. And I remember my community online really coming out and saying nice things to me, sending me gifts, like being like, here, I'm going to Venmo you $15. Like, just go, go buy yourself something nice, right? Like, go get yourself Uber Eats something. And I remember weirdly that those parasocial relationships of my community that some of whom I've never met in real life, were so warm and affirming and helpful at the time when I needed just a bunch of positivity heaped on me and a bunch of people saying like, you can continue, you can keep moving forward. It was so beautiful. And of course, a lot of my friends in real life, they really came and really went to bat for me. And one of my friends, the same day I announced that I had cancer, it had never even occurred to me to do a GoFundMe, even though my friend, and she's right, she's like, Goldie, this is like literally what GoFundMe is for,
Yeah.
right? It never occurred to me. And she's like, I'm just going to put together a GoFundMe for you because it sounds like you won't be able to work. And me being the overachiever, I was like, oh, I'm going to take like a month off, but don't
Yeah.
worry, I'll be back at it. Totally wrong. Totally wrong. But I didn't know it at the time. So she started a GoFundMe and all these people donated. I'm not going to tell, everybody who donated because some of those people wanted to stay anonymous.
Yeah, of course.
But there were some, really like celebrities were donating to this. People that I admire were donating to my GoFundMe. And there was something really reassuring and beautiful about that. So it was a really obviously terrible time for me.
Yeah.
But also in some ways a really beautiful and cool time for me too.
Yeah. What's some of the BTS that you're willing to share just so the everyday person that's listening to this to kind of understand? Because I feel we see on the news when people share the update that you kind of share, but they don't know the struggles. Would you mind sharing what your day-to-day looked like and how you process the news?
I think I went to like 5 to 10 doctor's appointments a week, which if you think, and
it's a lot.
That's a lot. And it's literally also not being able to physically sit up straight. So imagine having entire days where you can't even sit up. So of course you're not working. And I wasn't working the whole time. But I remember I got a great example. I got a Care Bear puzzle in the mail from one of my friends. And this is a 100-piece puzzle. It's not the most complicated puzzle, right? And I sat there and I remember trying to put together the yellow Care Bear. And it was just like such a struggle to put 2 pieces of this child-sized puzzle together. And that was like my cognition level is like literally even doing the simplest task was almost impossible. So most of that time was me trying to just keep myself literally alive and also trying to keep positive because I am a firm believer, not in toxic positivity, but that in the right kind of positivity also is healing, also is helpful. And I think that's also why I was able to quite frankly, get physically stronger faster, because I just went into this with the mentality of like, hey, it's cool. People love me.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to soak that. Like, I'm going to soak in the fact that people love me and people care about me. And I'm going to use that to power forward. And, I would say like other moments that were obviously really tough is that I had opportunities that I had to turn down. Like I had work stuff come up that was, some of it was stuff I'd been waiting years to hear back on.
Yeah.
And then literally it came up and I had to be like, I'm like literally going through chemotherapy for cancer. I am in the hospital. I can't do this opportunity. I hope in the future, ... when I'm better. And that was a huge question mark if I get better.
Yeah.
Which is of course very heavy too. I had to be like, okay, I'm not sure if I will get better, but maybe if in the future I do, I would love this opportunity again. So saying no was really hard.
Yeah.
Also, I had a lot of friends who dropped off. My best guy friend at the time, I thought he would actually be there taking care of me, and he literally stopped talking to me. He straight up dumped me as a friend.
Yeah.
And we had been friends for, one of my longest friendships of my entire life. Like we grew up together.
Yeah.
And it was such a stressful thing for him to be around that he just couldn't even be my friend anymore. And that is something that I still, I'm processing because it's such a big loss. And so you just have a lot of ways in which your life changes. And even right now, I look really healthy, but I can only operate at 60 to 70%, maybe on a good day. So I'm really operating at much lower levels than I used to be able to prior to getting diagnosed.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is physical. Some of it is mental. Like I have a lot of brain fog. I call it Swiss cheese brain. Like things just fall through the little hole, you know, like I brought something to bring to this thing and I left it by the door and it's still sitting by the door, right? That's just like something that falls through the little hole in my brain.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
what is something that people can do to support someone like yourself who's going through some chemo, for example?
Right. So one of the things I think that Elise was like can I start with something that wasn't helpful to me?
Yeah.
So one thing that was totally not helpful to me is people sent me so many books that were like, here's 25 inspiring stories about people who went through cancer. And some of those people died. And I was like, okay. Okay. So like, let me just start with that. Maybe don't talk about deaths to people, somebody who's going through a thing that's very close to death. And a lot of people actually reach out to me privately because I've been so public with my journey. And they want to talk to me a lot about death and people dying and people in their life who had died. So I would say maybe less.
Positive stories.
Yeah, maybe more on the positive side. So that's one thing to please avoid. But I would say one thing that was really helpful is the people who asked me, the small things like, hey, can I send you a meal? Can I send you like $20 of Amazon credit so you can get yourself something dumb, right? Can I figure out, what's the meal delivery service in your area? Can I like send you a meal? Would that be helpful? Or for my friends who live close by, can I drive you to a doctor's appointment? Right? Because I had so many doctor's appointments and I certainly wasn't driving at the time.
Right.
So it's like little things like that were more helpful than I cannot tell you how many fuzzy socks I got. I literally had at one point hundreds of fuzzy socks, Tom, hundreds, because people were just like, you know what Goldie needs? Fuzzy socks. I bet she's never gotten before? Fuzzy flipping socks. So I just like this mountain of socks and I donated all of them because I think I kept 2 pairs because I was like, I don't need what am I going to do with 100? Okay. Things I got a ton of. Fuzzy socks, and this makes sense because I love toys, like stuffed animals, which I kept a few of those. The books were, no offense, the books were the thing I donated first. The books were like not helpful. Somebody gave me literally a yoga stool for cancer yoga, which isn't a real thing. So I got a lot of products that weren't real, if that makes sense, or supplements that were like, what is this made out of? Because this might conflict with the literal life-saving drugs I'm on. Or people would give terrible advice like, you know what you should do? Lemons and coffee grounds. That will 100% solve everything. And I had to be like, I'm going to stick with these like life-saving drugs that have gone through clinical trials. And people would be like, no, you know what you need? Broccolini, not broccoli, broccolini. And I had to tell people no all the time. So what's helpful is supporting people on the hopefully doctor recommended journey they're on, offering to like drive them to a place, offering to pick up a meal for them. In some ways, it's similar to when people deal with a lot of big grief.
Yeah.
And what you can offer when somebody is grieving deeply and cannot function in that way, sometimes offering to bring by a meal or driving them or like offering to do a life errand, like saying like, oh, can I help you like pick up your medicine that you have to take? Can I help you like pick up the Pedialyte that you need to chug after this treatment?
Mm-hmm.
Those small actions are so much more helpful than I also had so many blankets. I got so many blankets and so many little spa kits, which I will tell you, I could like barely put two puzzle pieces together.
Yeah.
So I was not like going to the spa at the time.
Because while you're going through chemo, I imagine it's pretty intense. How long was that process for you?
So that process was actually, I went through one round in 2022. And then in 2023, when everybody's like, you're cured, because I went through surgery and they removed the cancer, I actually had to go through a post-surgery chemo round. So most of 2023, I was actually still going through chemotherapy. I could barely walk. And then as a type A type of person though, was I already going back to work? Yes. Was I literally, I remember I was filming something and they had to take 15-minute breaks in between filming things because I'd be like, oh, I can only stand for 15 minutes at a time. And they were so awesome because they were like, no, we want to work with you. So we will do whatever you need. And they had like a PA, bless this PA, who literally would run and like put a drink in my hand.
Wow.
So like I would sit down, somebody would like immediately start fanning me, and then somebody would put a drink in my hand and like start drinking. And that way we also, ironically, we actually got through our shoot day faster because I'm so precise than the person who was filming the exact same content, who's like the second person on set next to us, because I'm just like, when I'm on, I'm like very on.
Yeah.
I'm a professional. And the person next to us was like, more like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But those PAs, I adore those PAs. PAs are amazing.
And talk about the joy that it brought to you as well, being able to work while you're going through this.
Yeah, I think as somebody who literally has not laid down for 5 or 6 months and not worked before since I was maybe a teen, it was so weird to just like not be working. And it was so nice. It was so nice to be speaking on stage again. It was so nice to be getting the email that's like, Goldie, could you please like hurry it up? Can you turn in that document? Because we really need that document. And it was weirdly so nice to get like one of those emails again and be somebody that was part of a team that was really trying to go towards a mutual goal again. But, as somebody who just loves public speaking and loves being on camera, it was just so nice again to be there and being present and just like being on.
That's awesome to hear. I'm glad that you were able to turn a negative into something positive. I wanted to share some of the inspiring stories that you witnessed while you were going through this, because I know you told me a few.
Yeah.
I want you to think of one really good story that you can share.
This happens, I think, a lot too, in a good way. People who go through life-changing things is sometimes you get a bestie. So I have a cancer bestie who I met online, who is the coolest person ever. So she's an executive at a tech company. And at the time, she really helped me so much because her inspiring story was she was literally taking Zoom calls with her team with a trash basket next to her. And she would just like talk on the Zoom. She would turn off her camera and she like into like the little basket next to her. So she'd turn back on her camera again, turn back on sound and be like, great, next point. And just literally, I mean, looking back on it, maybe not the best idea.
Yeah.
But it was so inspiring to see her work through the entire thing and also work so hard that she for sure inspired me. So when she started working out and doing Pilates really quickly, I would say in the process. So she was in the second round of her treatment and she was already saying things like, I'm potentially training to do a marathon. I was like, what are you kidding? I'm like literally lying down. I can't even sit up. And she's like, I'm literally getting back into Pilates. It was just cool to see somebody who that is 1,000% mind over matter. She just decided that she was going to do it and she did it. And she is so much, quite frankly, healthier and happier. And she recovered so much faster because she just chose to move her body before she necessarily like felt like it. And that to me was very inspiring because she just worked and she moved past a difficult point and really inspired me to, I was not taking Zoom calls during this time, but it inspired me to start doing physical therapy a little bit earlier, inspired me to think, okay, maybe I actually can work if I ask for what I need. And that's what I think I really learned is during this process, I'm such a people pleaser a lot of the time. I learned how to ask a lot more for what I needed because I literally physically needed these things. I clinically needed these things. I needed to take a break every 15 minutes and I couldn't actually push my body harder. So it was very cool to kind of learn to have to change my personality a little bit.
And how do you feel today in this moment?
I mean, in this moment, I feel obviously happy because I'm here with my friend Tom.
Yeah.
But I also feel physically a lot more energized, energetic. My brain, like I said, is a little Swiss cheesy.
Yeah.
But it's instead of just being a giant hole, it's like little holes now. So I feel so much better, like I can do so much more. And I'm so thankful for whenever I can do more, whenever I can do that extra thing, whenever I can take that speaking gig or take a new client on. So I feel better and I'm just always trying to stay positive in the moment because I think it's important to stay positive when you have a huge thing. And also, I have a great therapist that I talk to every week and I dive into the negativity as much as I need to. And I think, I go through when I have a bad day, I like to say this, if I have a bad day, I go all the way to the bottom of the pool. I go all the way to the worst possible feeling. I have my feet touch the bottom of the bad feeling pool, and then I come up.
Yeah. What I like is just seeing where you're at right now with all the great things you're doing. I want to leave the last part of our session to talk about personal branding, if you're cool with that.
Yeah.
What are ways that, let's say I am looking to do a career pivot or I'm starting out.
Yep.
How do I get people to find out or let's just do me. How do I build my brand so more people know about what I'm doing?
Tom, everyone should know what you're doing at all times.
Yeah.
So I think one of the best ways to think about it is, what do you want to be known for? So an exercise that I do a lot with my clients is I do 3 keywords. And I call these soft keywords and hard keywords. So soft keywords are adjectives. So warm, funny, right? And hard keywords are like writer, engineer, right? Podcaster, whatever.
I mean, that is one. Yeah.
Right. So whatever those keywords are, it's helpful to pick 3 total keywords. So maybe 1 adjective and 2 work descriptors, or 2 adjectives and 1 work descriptor. And the reason why you start with that is we all do so much these days. We all have 10 to 20 jobs. It's really easy to get, I really want to use this phrase right now, lost in the sauce. It's really easy to get really lost in what you're doing and explaining it to other people, because I know my brain is literally clinically like Swiss cheese, but everybody's brain is a little bit like Swiss cheese these days. So it's hard to remember. If, Tom, you come up to me and you say, "Hi, I'm Tom," and then you list out 20 different things that you do, I'm not going to remember
Probably
that,
not.
right?
No.
But if you say, "Hi, I'm Tom, I'm a podcaster," I can remember that. You've now entered into my one Tom-shaped memory slot that's like, Tom is a podcaster. Ding, ding, ding. So it's just helpful to narrow down. And whenever you meet somebody for the first time, you tell them one thing you do instead of 20 million things that you do.
Yeah.
because we are all so distracted by the busy world that we live in. It's really hard to remember, honestly, past 2. And most people won't even remember 1.
Yeah. How do people overcome that imposter syndrome of making that post? I think what scares people is when you put so much effort into something and nobody sees it.
Yeah.
And you feel lost, waste of time, whatever negative words to insert.
Right.
How does someone climb out of that thought or fog?
So I think about when I first started making videos on LinkedIn, and it's always funny to me that my nickname is the Oprah of LinkedIn, right? And I became #1 on LinkedIn. But when I started, that wasn't the case. When I started, I think I had maybe 300 connections on LinkedIn, which I thought was quite a lot.
I was one of the early days connections.
Yeah, you definitely were one of the early days connections. Yeah. So I think I had 300 connections. I was like, oh, I'm so cool.
Yeah.
And now I have 78,000, probably close to 80,000. I haven't checked recently. But I think back to those 300 days and I thought I was so cool. And I remember when I posted my first couple of videos, I think I got 10 views. And I remember getting a comment from somebody that wasn't following me that I didn't literally know. I didn't work with this person. We didn't go to school together. And I was like, oh, I'm so famous because I got a stranger commented on my video. And I think that's where you need to start. Start with 1. And I think that helps with imposter syndrome too, is think about the first person who becomes your fan or part of your community. You always need to start with 1. And from 1, you can build a massive fan base. And whenever you have one person that you don't know that comments on your stuff, just take that to heart and say, okay, I'm reaching people outside of my little bubble. So I'm not an imposter because I'm literally doing things that other people already appreciate.
What is something new that's happening that people should know about in terms of building their brand to get more opportunities?
I think something new that maybe people can think about is, and maybe this isn't so new, but this is just smart, is don't leave all of your eggs in one basket. So don't focus only on one platform. If you're thinking about social media, make sure that you are on at least 2 or 3 different platforms. Make sure maybe you have your own website. Make sure that you have a presence that's independent of if tomorrow that platform shuts down, are you going to be okay?
Are there any LinkedIn tricks? I'm sure that's the most common question you get asked to get the best video. Oh, I'll ask 2 questions. The first one is going to be, how do I get the most views on a video?
Okay. So to me, it's all about the first couple seconds.
Okay.
So if your first couple seconds on your LinkedIn video, you're like, hello, like you're not gonna have a ton of repeat, or you're not gonna have people watch through it. So you need to catch people in that first 5 seconds. So that's one thing to definitely do on LinkedIn. And then one thing that I actually push LinkedIn to do, which now they have, is auto captioning.
Oh yeah.
Which is great and very helpful. And I personally like to double down. So I will have my editor actually bake in captions as well. So I'll have double the amount of captioning, mostly because most people watch LinkedIn videos on silent.
That's interesting to know. And how long should your LinkedIn video be?
This is when I think it depends. Because if you're interesting, make it as long as LinkedIn video will allow it to be. Which is roughly, I think right now, about a minute for videos. However, you can go live. And you can go live for a pretty long period of time. And I've seen people do lives and they're always changing the total number for live. So I don't want to say a number for live. But however long you can be interesting for and be giving facts for. I think sometimes with other things, I think actually about people who go on Twitch and they're just like on Twitch for 5 hours and just like steady with me, right?
Yeah.
And you can do that. And I think it's a little harder on LinkedIn to do that. So it's not necessarily about being showy for 5 hours, but it's about giving helpful information for the entire period of time.
Love it. I think all these tips are really helpful because I'm trying to build my LinkedIn again. I know I started early, but then I stopped posting.
Well, you and me, Tom, because I'm just starting to grow it again. I just posted my first video again in like months.
Yeah. How'd that go?
I think pretty good.
Good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you are the expert. So.
I know. Well, hopefully it goes good. As we know, the algorithm is a finicky being.
Last part I want to dive into is talk about your speaking engagement. How did you land such amazing opportunities with some of the brands you work with?
Yeah. So, one of the things that's so helpful about being present online, which is why I'm so glad that you are focusing on growing your LinkedIn, is if you're out there and especially on platforms where people are hiring. I think it's really helpful to be present on a platform like LinkedIn because those are people with budgets and those are the people who can potentially hire you to do speaking. So I get a lot of inbound where people find me because of a video, because of an article, because of a post, and then they reach out to me and say, "Hey, would you like to speak on exactly what you spoke on
Mm-hmm.
in that post or video or article?" And this is once again, we go back to people cannot understand a lot of times brands that are like 10 different things. So if they see you're talking about personal branding, they're like, "Great, can you talk about personal branding?" So whatever it is that you want to say, do a lot of public speaking on or do any public speaking on, it's helpful to put out content specifically on that exact on the nose idea.
I know I've asked you a ton of questions. Do you have any questions that I can answer for you?
Yeah, Tom, I want to know. So you have grown such an impressive network of very cool people. I want to hear your advice on how you can connect meaningfully with more people.
I think the best way is just find people who share a common goal. Right now, something I love doing is I love playing pickleball. So, yeah, that's
Yeah.
the place that I don't feel I'm working,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
free,
Yeah.
but I'm connecting with other folks in the creative industry,
Yeah.
and it's just exciting. It's a new form. I'm really good at it. So, not really good, but I play high level, play competitively,
Yeah.
and I just love
It's like
introducing
not
people.
surprising to me at all, Tom, that you would start something as a hobby and then you're competitive and then next I know you're gonna be like, "Here's the Tom branded line of pickleball wear."
I made a paddle company, but I dropped it and donated the paddles because for me, I didn't want to play a sport and then tie it to revenue. I don't
Yep.
like that because the moment you start taking money from something,
Yep.
that's why I don't consult as much. Just
Yep.
I feel it's just you're looking at the time. You got to get an output. And I get it. You have to do it to pay the bills. But if I were to do that with pickleball, I think it would take away some of my joy. So what I've done is just the community effort. This applies to everything. When I play pickleball, let's say I play with someone who's negative and throws tantrums and
Right.
just I feel their energy.
Right.
Now I want to play with people who are upbeat, positive, and I feel we're on the same team and we're having fun.
Yeah.
Because if you're having fun with a group of people, then you grow as well. And if you're in an environment where you feel capped or limited, then you got to walk away. And this applies to general networking. Let's say you want to be, what do you want to be? What's something, where are you trying to be in the next year?
I don't know why this name popped up in my head. I was like, wow, I'd really like to be Michelle Yeoh. I don't even want to act. I just was like, oh, just cool to be Michelle Yeoh. I cannot do any martial arts or anything.
Yeah.
But I love to be somebody who is, really out there and inspiring people.
So who are 5 people that you feel are in that group?
Gosh, really making
On
me
the
say it off
spot.
the top of my head.
Yeah.
Okay, I will though.
Yes.
I will right now. I'm going to go with my favorite of all time, the GOAT, LeVar Burton.
Okay.
Of course. I love Ava DuVernay, who's an amazing director and producer as well. I don't know why I just keep coming back to Michelle Yeoh. Probably because she's the most amazing person
So that's
ever.
3.
And then wait, how many do I have to
You
do?
have 2 left.
I have 2 left.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay. Now we're getting into the tough spot. Now I have to really pick through
You do.
who I want in that spot. I would say, even though somewhat controversial, Oprah Winfrey.
Okay.
And then the other one, are you ready for this one?
Yeah.
Martha Stewart.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're asking how they build a network. What I would do is from those 5 people, see their circle and try to host events where you can bring people from that circle because it's the theory that we become who we are based on who we hang out with. An example is I've been hanging out with my 2-year-old cousin. He says no like this. And I'm like, no, like a kid.
Yeah.
He doesn't have logic. He just says no flat. And I've been saying that and realizing, oh crap, I keep saying what he does because I hear it so much.
Right.
So the theory behind that is just those 5 people, they hang out with 5 people.
So you're saying hang out with 5 2-year-olds.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's that. Go to a daycare. That's where you get inspired. But find
no all day long.
Yeah.
No all day.
But find those people, do a dinner together.
Yeah.
And when people think of events and dinners, they always think, oh, sponsorships, oh, the costs. But you know what you can do? Split the costs.
Yeah.
You can literally say user pay. I'm inviting you to a private dinner and we're all going to connect.
Yeah.
And you know what? If those 5 people have a great time, you're going to get to the people that you aspire to become. So that's the hack. It's just most people don't think like that. I don't think with connecting. They always think I want something, but honestly, just provide value for their surrounding circles and the words will travel.
I think what you just said is so helpful is people always want something. So they think I want, but what you're talking about is I give, I help.
Yeah.
You know, like, I connect.
Yeah. Because I'm sure in your shoe, everyone's, hey, can I get a Forbes mention? Hey, can I get a Forbes article?
Yeah.
How many DMs do you get or emails?
I get so many. Like I literally get a massive, I was just on vacation for the past couple of days and I came back to my inbox and it was, I think in 12 hours, I had 550 emails.
I'm sure because your Forbes emails there because you get so many views on your articles.
Yeah. So, but what's always helpful, and you're right, is connecting with people where I'm like, wow, your story is exactly the kind of story that I write about. And why don't I write about you? And this is great because I get to cover somebody interesting and then they get that great bump for them.
Yeah, mutual benefits.
I think mutual benefits is a helpful way to think about it. But I also agree with you that not everything, because I think this is such a, I have to say this because I live in LA, such an LA way to think, which is a lot of LA folks always think like, okay, what can I get out of you? And that's how they're connecting with you, right? They're looking at you and they're like, well, what is it that you do? So then they can figure out what it is that they can wrangle out of you.
Yep.
And I feel like it's really helpful to, instead of thinking about what you can wrangle out of someone, is, how can you provide value for them? Or how can you support them as a person?
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes we lose that humanity side of it, where we just don't meet people as they are, as people, and meet them outside of their jobs.
Yeah, and I'll add to what you're saying. Sometimes people are going through stuff behind the scene that lead to them being desperate. So just because somebody's super pushy, always think, why are they like this?
Yeah.
Ask like, hey, like tell me about your family. Tell me about what's going on. What are you trying to achieve? Why are you working so hard? Why are you so transactional? That's where you get to learn about.
I love that question.
Story.
I still want to call it that question. Why are you so transactional at this moment?
Yeah, at this moment.
Because maybe they aren't always
I've been there.
Yeah, and I've been there too.
Yeah.
Tom, we were both we are pretty sure we started off at the same place. So I know we 100% have both been there.
Yeah. We didn't have any like much at the
I think it's what's so beautiful is like we both started at places where we didn't have anything. Like we built what we have right now from scratch, from supporting each other, from having friends that supported us. That when we were a little bit more transactional, that we had somebody who helped us out.
Yeah.
Right?
Because when I met you, Goldie, I was touching dirty feet every other weekend at my mom's salon. 20 feet. Literally 20 feet per weekend.
I remember you were talking about that in the talks that you were giving. And I thought I personally thought that was really impressive because you just never gave up.
Yeah.
You just said, I think what is really beautiful is you never at any point said, this is below me. This work is below me. You just said, this is work. And I think so many people think about this connection. This is also an LA thing. This connection is below me. This work is below me. And when I started looking for work again in January of 2023, this is from not working at all. I was such in a panic. I had to restart my entire career. And I had 0 leads because everyone thought I still couldn't do any work. And I remember thinking at that moment in time, no legal work, is below me.
Yeah.
So when my friend is like, hey, can you edit this thing for me for $100? I was like, right? I was like, heck yeah, that's my rate now.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that present, right? When my friends were helping me get jobs at the beginning of last year, I just remember thinking like, thank you for all of this because none of this is below me because all of this is just helpful.
Yeah.
And I think if you never treat jobs also as them being below you, that's also just like a helpful, healthy mindset to have. It also makes you less upset and bitter about a lot of things. Because I feel like I meet people all the time who are like, oh, I can't believe I'm doing this job. I can't believe I have to do this. Or like, I wish I could do what you're doing, but like I'm doing this. And that's contagious too.
I I do think it's contagious in a negative way because
Yes.
sometimes we're idolizing a certain image, but like I said, behind the scene,
you don't know.
you don't know the struggle. It's like, do you really want this?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not for everybody.
Yeah, I think about somebody that I met who's a billionaire and they literally can't get a date at all. They just like cannot find people who want to be their friends because they're so wealthy, and they also look at people with suspicion. So they also I think they attract it, right? They always are looking at people and being like, you want me for my wealth? So that's what they attract, is people who want them for their wealth. And they're so bitter that everyone that they're around wants them for their wealth, and everybody that they date is like that. It's because they never put themselves forward as like, hey, I play pickleball.
That's
right?
what I tell people I do. My first thing, I rarely talk about what I do anymore because I feel when I tell them what I actually do, I get a changed reaction.
Right.
That's not the most authentic every time. So for your friend, actually, I have an advice. He should go to the pickleball courts. He should go on Saturday and he should go play with people. Because on the courts, people don't care what you do. They're not like, well, maybe they ask, but they're genuine. They're not like, oh my gosh,
but I think it's what you start with, how you introduce
That's true.
yourself. So I think it's like great that that's how you introduce yourself.
Unless they show up to the court wearing like design
literally
clothes,
that says like, I'm a
Louis
billionaire.
Vuitton. No, like Louis Vuitton.
Oh yeah. The print, the monogram,
the Prada
print.
glasses, whatever. Yeah, maybe don't do that.
Maybe, I think that's great fashion advice and also great life advice for this very particular person. But yeah, I think what you lead with is also how people are going to interpret you. So like, I write for a major publication and I so rarely, if ever, bring that up first. I will say something weird like, oh, I collect gashapon, which is Japanese blind box toys. Or I'll be like, the ultra nerdiest thing that I do right now is I grow sea monkeys. They're brine shrimp. And there's maybe a community of 500 other people who also do this. And we're all super nerdy together. But I love it because nobody really cares who you are in that space. They just want to know, can you raise brine shrimp? Yeah. And it's really equal. It's really egalitarian because the hobby is so inexpensive. So it's not, there's no like money barrier. It's like, do you have $10? Yes, you can do this hobby.
No, that's unique. That's the equivalent of me playing pickleball.
It's equivalent of you playing pickleball.
Yeah. Before we cap this off, how can people help you?
Wow.
Be selfish.
It has to be selfish. Oh no, Tom, I'm so bad at these things.
Yeah, I know. I am too. You know that.
I know you. I know you are.
I never asked for anything.
How can people help me? I think the best way that people can help me is, go ahead and as I'm restarting my LinkedIn journey, like go ahead and follow me on LinkedIn. Go ahead and give me a like and a comment on that platform. Say something nice. Actually, yes. How about that just in general? Say really kind things to me because I just like soak that up.
Love it. Thanks so much. Thanks for bringing back all the positive, fun memories from the old days.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm sad this isn't a folding chair, so we could just like fold it up and walk away.
Yeah. It's a little nicer now.
I mean, this is the upscale version. I feel like we've graduated.
I have throwback photos. Don't worry. I'll edit it.
I remember those. Please put them in because I remember those throwback moments.